Okay, let's talk about Call of Steel, but not with steel skills. The way I've been doing this is with slams. Like the way Call of Steel, I'm gonna start with how Call of Steel works. Like the way Call of Steel works, you basically remove all the impels on all the targets around you, and it applies the damage instantly to everything in AoE. I don't know exactly what's the AoE, but it's big enough, especially with the threshold jewels, which I'm gonna show in a bit. Yeah, so basically you use this in conjunction with Impaler, and what Impaler does, it allows you to impale up to 5, apply 5 impels like instantly in one hit, which means you don't need, like if you just use Call of Steel after impaling like once, for example, on like a couple monsters, it's not gonna do much. But if you have like 5 impels on like, I don't know, a pack of mobs, and you use Call of Steel, you're basically gonna do the damage you would do on one monster, but in AoE, to every single other monster around you. So it's basically gonna shotgun the whole pack. So look at it as a 100% more damage multiplier for every single monster that is around with max impale. That's the total impale damage, like from your hits, and then you just add the 5 impale stacks. So I'm gonna show actually how it works a bit, like a map real quick, how it plays out. Game doesn't matter, the rolls. Thing to note too is that the corpses keep the impales, as you can see, like on the how it says in the tooltip. Like removes the impale debuffs from enemies alive or dead. So all the corpses keep the impales, which means like even if you kill some monsters, you're still gonna get all the damage from the impales. Like see, I impaled a bunch of stuff. I'm just gonna use Call of Steel, and everything dies. Even though, you know, like all I did was like one ground slam. But yeah, I think that's enough though for this. I don't need to finish the map. So the reason we use ground slam though is because if you use it with steel skills, for example, like like Shadowing Steel does reasonable amount of damage, but it's nowhere near the amount of damage you get from slams, for example, especially with the War Cries and all the new supports from slams. Like you use Fist of War, it's 150% more on the one hit you're gonna snapshot. War Cries that give you like 10 times your damage, something like this. So we look at it on the POE for it. Look at what the damage looks like. So you're always intimidated because you have Intimidating Cry, they're maimed. With Ground Slam though, you wanna try to be close. And I'll explain why we choose Ground Slam in a bit. Impaled recently, they're actually not. Cry power doesn't matter. You only look at the max hit, because you're gonna, at least when you're clearing, it doesn't matter too much. But for bosses, you really only wanna focus on one hit, one big hit, and snapshot the damage of that one hit to have like a huge Call of Steel damage. Like for example, with my current setup, do I have intimidated, range maybe? I think that's all. That's without flasks. We can do flasks too, because bosses you're gonna have flasks. It's like the hit goes for like 1.6 million with ground slam, close range. If you're champion, you're gonna have your impale damage is gonna go up to like, let's say 2 million. Which means when you press Call of Steel, you're gonna consume all the impales, which is gonna do 7 times this damage in AoE instantly. Which is gonna amount to like, 14 million damage basically in AoE per target. That's per target. So this is pretty much like the crux of the build. Like you take advantage of the fact that slams allow you to have like gigantic hit damage. That results like gigantic impales, which you get 5 of. Oh, hold on. Actually, that was a really small mistake. For impales is only 5. Yeah, it's like this. It's a little bit lower, but it's about the same anyway. Yeah, like you get one big hit, but without Impaler you only get one impale off of it. With Impaler you get 5. So yeah, you would get 5 max damage hits impales on it, which is where the damage comes from. I'll show you the boss, I guess. Bone Crypt has Az, right? I'll just show you the boss. I'll show you the boss. Show how it looks like on bosses too. Hold on. Just watch the boss. I'm not sure what it's here. This is tier 16. I don't think it's the best boss to showcase this because there's ads, so it actually map bosses could have literally like 100 times more HP. They would still die. You can also make this build go way faster. I just don't bother making it fast. But you could play this on a berserker that would do less damage, a bit less damage, but that would be much faster. Gladiator is good too. Maybe way faster. So if you want speed, you can have speed. There's a boss actually in this map. The boss is dead. I mean, yeah, it's not a good example because there's a bunch of mobs. Like for maps where you have like packs amount, any type of density, any type of monster density around the boss, it is basically gonna one-shot it, like almost regardless. Even with a bad weapon, even with a one-handed weapon, you can also clear the maps with Lip Slam. Like I can just clear the maps here with Lip Slam if I want to. I'll just show it just so you understand. Like most of the things just come from Impaler plus Call of Steel. Again, yeah, just Lip Slam, Call of Steel, everything dies. And this is a Lip Slam that has like no links on it at all. It doesn't even have a 100% chance to impale because I don't have impale support on it, but that's just enough. You just need to impale a couple mobs and that's enough to kill a pack in tier 16 maps. I'm not gonna talk about that result. Yeah, another thing, let me think, what else there is to go over? So yeah, the reason we go for Ground Slam is that is the ability that hits the hardest in one hit, besides Thunder and Earthquake. The only problem is like Thunder is very clunky to use, like extremely clunky. It's way too slow. Your clear is gonna be atrocious with it. I've tested it. The damage you're gonna see is very similar. That's the final wave maybe. That doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like the average damage is like 1.5 million. With Ground Slam, it's actually more. So yeah, and if you go Earthquake is gonna be more damage, but Earthquake, yeah, it's extremely clunky to use because you don't wanna impale with the first hit that does no damage. If you put in Earthquake instead, like the initial impact hit does only 800k, the aftershock though does 2 million, which is like 33% more damage than Ground Slam, but it's extremely clunky to use. I would use that for bosses maybe that don't move too much. Like on Sirius, for example, you can probably use Earthquake instead of Ground Slam. But I haven't bothered personally. If you wanna go for it, you can do that. But I would never map with this though. This is gonna be really bad. I feel really bad with this map. As for the setup that the links we're using, you saw here it's always these links. There's like almost no reason to do anything else than this. Pulverize we use because it gives more AoE is good, and you only care about the hit damage. You don't really care about attack speed at all. There's one thing about this build. You actually do not care about attack speed like whatsoever. Attacking faster does nothing for you outside of boss fights, which I'll go over in a bit. Yeah, Fist of War obviously. You wanna try to snapshot your big hits with Fist of War. Vitality goes without saying. Everything here goes without saying. You get your impale chance. You need 100% chance to impale. You don't need it if you map, but since you wanna be able to at least kill map bosses, or even like bosses like conquerors, you can kill conquerors and stuff with this, no problem. But you need 100% chance to impale. So use impale support, and the rest you just get it from the ascendancy at 20% here. And for the last 40%, personally I get them from a harpooner. It gives you 30%. This node here. And the last 10% from the threshold duel, which is one of the reasons I also use this. Speaking of threshold use, there's like 3 different ones you can use. There's a damage AoE one, which is the one I use. I think it's just the best, in my opinion. There's speed AoE. This makes you cast Call of Steel like much faster. Like for example, this is the cast speed for Call of Steel without the jewel, the speed jewel, and this is with the jewel. So you basically like it's almost instant. Like you don't have to stop for like a split second. Like compared to the other one. But to be honest, like I'd rather just lose a little bit of speed on it. Like it's already fast enough. It's faster than a Warcry. It's as fast as a Warcry with Admonisher and some of the Warcry speed you get on the tree. So I think it's good enough. And the other one is this one, which is speed and damage. So it's up to you. I would use this one. Because you need this one if you want to kill bosses though. I'm pretty sure a lot of bosses won't get one shot if you don't have this. Like for example, tier 16 bosses probably won't get one shot. You'll need like 2 big slams to kill them. Yeah. So that's for the threshold jewel, the links. What else is there to talk about? The tree is very generic. You can also play any slam build can transition into this like without any problem. You can transition from and to any slam build very easily. That's the tree I'm using personally. You don't have to use the exact same tree. The only thing that matters really is you need Measured Fury. Obviously you need the jewel. I would also use the ground slam jewel, at least one of them. It gives you a lot more AoE. Well, I'm gonna show here. So this is the arc with the threshold jewel, and without it, no, keep that. That's what it would look like. So it's like, yeah, it basically like to me it's like almost doubles the area of effect. So I would always use this. Endurance charges, a lot more AoE. It's really good. You can have 2 of them if you want. I haven't tried it. I don't think it's necessary. I would just use 1. Yeah, so as for the tree, yeah, Measured Fury, the threshold jewels for Call of Steel and Ground Slam. And besides that, honestly, there's actually not much. Like the rest is literally only life. My tree is Admonisher, Measured Fury, Impaler. Rest is life, defenses. Oh, and of course like a Harpooner for the Impale chance and the Impale effect. But rest is just gonna be life. Endurance charge here, because this one gives you also regen, so it's an important one. And yeah, that's all. Just life. You don't need damage on your tree, like at all. You take these, like these are good obviously, like Destroy is good, Butchery is good, but you actually don't need the damage. If you want damage, you can get these, I guess. But I would not recommend it. I would just go more life. Get all the Fortify nodes obviously, because you can go champion. You'll be champion at least. On this build we're champion, but we can go any ascendancy. Champion is the one that's gonna do the most damage. Not by much compared to Berserker, but compared to the other ascendancies, it's gonna do way more damage. If you want the most balanced ascendancy, is champion by far. It's the best. You do more damage. You're really tanky. Yeah, I would recommend this champion. If you want more speed, you can do Gladiator. Obviously, there's gonna be less damage. You're gonna be less tanky. Unless you wanna go one-handed shield, which is possible. You can go one-handed shield with the max block Gladiator. One thing though, if you go Gladiator, you do not want this. If you get this, you lose the impales from corpses. Like corpses don't lose impales, so you're gonna lose a lot of damage. You're already losing a lot of damage from not having Master Metal, so I would not recommend getting this. I would just go max block with the Challenger charges and this, I guess. And I would skip this completely. And yeah, otherwise you can go Berserker. Obviously, if you're in softcore, you can go for the full damage speed. You go Warbringer, Aspect of Carnage, and Rite of Ruin. You can do that as a jug as well. You can do that as anything, honestly. But I guess the ones that I would come to mind first are, yeah, Champion, Glad, Berserker, Jug. If you're on more defense, you can go Jug. Although Jug is not even that much better than Champion defensively. It's mostly against damage over time, so you're gonna be more safe. But yeah, you can basically play this as anything. The way Call of Steel works pretty much carries the build for everything besides bossing. If you want a boss, I think you have to use the damage duel, and you have to be champion probably. Maybe Berserker can do it, but Berserker is fine too for damage. If you play anything else, your damage is probably gonna be a bit lacking for bosses. As in, you're gonna need to slam twice, or 3 times instead of once. And yeah, so that's for the Ascendancy, for the tree. What else is there to talk about? Which cluster jewels would you use? I don't think I would use cluster jewels. Only reason I would use cluster jewels is to get chaos res or something like this. Like some that are nice are the Warcry jewels. Warcry cluster jewels are okay to get Cry Wolf, but that's only for really. It's not necessary. It's not really useful. There's one that gives onslaught, which is nice too, but there's like nothing. There's nothing crazy. Basically, cluster jewels like whatever. They don't make the build that much better, or if any better. So I would not bother with this. I would just grab all the life you can on the tree, and you can do like what? This build has like 230% life on tree almost. Yeah, you can probably maybe even get more. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But as for the weapon, again, for the gear, you actually do not even need a good weapon. You can use something like this and be completely fine. I'll show you just. You can use something like this and it's gonna be completely fine, for example. It's a really bad weapon. You do not need a good weapon. The way the skills works with the impels carries the build. If you're not champion, you might need a better weapon. But if you're champion, you actually don't even need a good weapon. You could play this one-handed, two-handed. You can do whatever. You don't need a good weapon. Speaking of this, actually, that reminds me something. What's that? Oh yeah, you cannot do this with phase breakers though. Phase breaker does no damage because you can play slams as champion with phase breaker. The only problem is like for this build, like you never hit targets that are impaled. You never impale, so you're basically gonna do no damage. You're not gonna get the flat fees from Master Metal, which makes this build not function with phase breaker at all. It's not gonna be possible, so I would not even try. It would do no damage at all. So one-handed with shield, two-handed, both are good. If I get more defense, you get a staff with block. You get one-handed with a shield, you go block, and that would be the best way to do it. And on the gear again, you need nothing. Life, res. That's all. You just want life and res. The only things that can maybe change, make it more comfortable, is getting obviously the mana cost craft. You really want your Elrond craft, so you can use Pride for bosses. Which brings me to the auras you should use, which are just gonna be War Banner, Flesh and Stone with Maim, Blood and Sand, and Pride. Do not use Herald of Purity. Do not use a totem. You cannot have minions, you cannot have any totems with this build, because they're just gonna eat the impels, and when you use Call of Steel, they're gonna be gone basically. And you really want to pop the impels yourself to get the bonus damage. So you don't want anything popping your impels besides Call of Steel. So do not use Herald of Purity, do not use totems. And I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's about it. If there's any questions, you know where to find me. And yeah. I've been really surprised. I did not plan to play this build at first, but I tried it basically while leveling, and it looked like Call had potential, and yeah, it's actually really, really good. I would recommend this like for mapping. It's like insanely good. It's like really, really nice to play. I would recommend it 100%. Yeah, it's the build. The build. Like I said, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I am out. Yeah, have fun with this. Peace.